Welcome everyone as you're entering in from the waiting room. Hello, thanks for making the time to join us this evening. My name is Michael. I'm the events coordinator and publicist at Annie Bloom's Books. I'm going to be admitting people while I do this introduction. For those of you who aren't familiar with Annie Bloom's, we're located in Portland, Oregon, in the heart of Multnomah Village. We've been around for 42 years now, and we are still going strong. Admitting another person. Welcome. Our store is open to in-store shopping, has been for a few months now. Masks are still required as they are in all indoor spaces in Oregon. We're open on weekdays from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and weekends 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. And our website is always open. You can shop at annieblooms.com day and night. We offer curbside pickup, in-store pickup, local delivery within a few miles of the store, and various shipping options. Our website is a really good place to go and pick up both of the author's books. I'm going to put that in the chat right now and admit 3 more people. Both of the authors tonight will be signing books. So when you place your orders, if you have a personalization request, go ahead and put that in the comments section. And admitting another person. Yay, people keep coming in, that's great. Welcome, welcome everyone. Tonight we're delighted to be hosting 2 wonderful poets from Oregon's own Airlie Press, Brittney Corrigan and David Pickering. After the readings, there's going to be a Q&A. You can feel free to type questions into the chat and I'll read them to the poets, or you can pop on the screen at the end and ask them whatever you feel more comfortable with. Right now, we are going to hear from an editor at Airlie Press, Amelia Ettinger. Amelia.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Thank you for being here, and thank you for Annie Bloom Bookstore to have us hosting this event, and to Michael for coordinating it. Airlie Press, for those of you who are not familiar with it, is a local Oregon press. It's a cooperative press, and it publishes 3 books a year, 2 from Pacific Northwest poets, and 1 national prize, which is anywhere in the nation. Tonight, we're celebrating the launch of these 2 books, one by editor of Airlie Press, Brittney Corrigan, Daughters, and the national prize winner for this year is David Pickering with Jesus Comes to Me as Judy Garland. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. And now, let me tell you about Brittney's book, Daughters. This collection reimagines characters from mythology, folklore, fairy tales, and pop culture from the perspective of their daughters. Daughters we don't expect such individuals to have, as we don't usually think of Bigfoot, the Mad Hatter, or Medusa as parents. The persona poems in Daughters give voice to the guilt, resentment, and anger that may come with raising a child, as well as explore the intertwining of these shameful feelings with pride and love. These figures are a new visioning from the daughter's perspective of what it means to shape another human being, taking on such topics as aging, rebellion, loss, domestic violence, homelessness, and gender identity. The voices of Daughters aim to upend the reader's conceptions of the characters and throw light upon what it means for a girl to come out from under her parents as a woman of her own making. Let me admit 2 more people, and then I will tell you about the fabulous author. Brittney Corrigan is the author of 3 previous books of poetry: Breaking, which is another brand new collection from her, Navigation, and 40 Weeks. Brittney was raised in Colorado and has lived in Portland, Oregon for the past 3 decades, where she is an alumna and employee of Reed College. She is currently at work on her first short story collection, which is going to be super awesome. Everybody welcome Brittney Corrigan.
Thank you, Michael. Thanks everyone for being here, and thanks especially to Annie Blooms for hosting us tonight. I wish we were here with you all in person, but I'm sure there are some of you who couldn't have been in person and are here on Zoom, so I'm excited to have you all here. And I'll say that if you don't yet have David and my books, I encourage you to buy them from Annie Bloom's tonight and support our fabulous local independent bookstore. And if you already have them, then buy yourself a gift from them of a book that you've been wanting. So I'm going to read to you 6 of the daughters tonight. There's 50 of them in the book, and they're all a little different from one another. And so I'm trying to give you a varied set of daughters this evening. And I was encouraged by my mother, who's been to all my readings, to not read the same daughters again. So tonight I'm going to read you some daughters that I don't normally read, who are going to get their voices out there. So hopefully that'll be fun for y'all. So I'm going to start with Scarecrow's daughter. And she was the first one that was written for this collection before I even knew it was going to be a collection. So it started the whole project. Scarecrow's daughter. What I need him to understand is that I love the crows, the sheen of them, the crowd of their voices, the way their wings make that sound like a field mouse running for its life through dry grass, the blur of the fox. At night, on our twin posts, he feathers his straw hand on my straw cheek, plumps his shirt a little, stares down between the rows of corn. Stars ignite in the autumn darkness. I lean in the wind toward the hem of the crop. I could rustle in my red flowered dress to the edge of the cornfield, reach up my husks to the branches bent down to meet me, pull myself up. There, I could see beyond the farmhouse, the span of the road. I've had enough of scaring things away, startling hungry eyes from every stalk, when what I want to do is tear back the green so the sun smacks full on the yellow meat of the cobs. Offer up ears for the feasting, whisper, stay. I want everything to land on me, dig into my straw-stuffed shoulders and carry me up into the blue. They would look beautiful, the crows, kernels balanced in their beaks, whirling close to my father, then peeling away. The sunrise is lovely. October is lovely. I can hear the harvesters waking at the edges of dawn. I could climb down, husks crackling as I landed, weigh the unbearable options, settle on which way to run. All right. So, and for those of you who have the book, well, and if you don't, I'm going to show you. All of the daughters are written in these 6x6 forms, 6 stanzas of 6 lines each, and you'll see if you have the book, you'll go through, and some of them are concrete poems, and I fiddled with that form to get them into the shape of certain things that the poems were about. So, so that's fun too when you're reading visually. This one's Lion Tamer's daughter. I was raised between the jaws of cats, triple my size, teeth long as hairpins and paws that could pull down the sun. The straggle of their manes against the bars, the heat of their voices before the whip, cindered eyes on my father. At night, the panthers measure their cages, obsidian bodies seething in the dark, sleek throats a storm of guttural mewling as I fling them their meat, skim my fingers past their thrashing tails while they lick and swallow and tear. The tigers, with their fur like Persian carpets, thick and persimmon bright, the fall of their stripes in undulations and ripples, the striding of their haunches and flanks, how the slender height of my father pins that power beneath their skins, how they pant. And the leopards, with hides full of eyes, one spot after another backed onto each platform until they open their mouths at my father, and fury tumbles out with fear. The crack of the whip against the earth of the arena, the tension in the stands. Then the lions, the caves of their maws, snouts snarled back around their dens of teeth. And my father, how he softens the whip in one hand, takes the thick tendrils of their manes within the other, and lays his head upon their thrumming tongues. Each night, the big tent empty and the cats re-snared, I walk the ring of cages with my bucket of meat. Green eyes plead and threaten in the stench. I could unlock each latch, spring free each door. The cats would set upon me with gratitude and rage. One way or the other, they'd take me in. I know you're all out there. I can't hear you. I wish I could. Okay, so some of these daughters are a little more pop culture-y and a little feistier. So I'm going to give you one of those. This is Time Traveler's Daughter. It's completely annoying. My mother says things like, "You shouldn't go out with him. It's not going to end well. I'm just trying to keep you from heartbreak, honey. I'm using my power for good. You should be thanking me." "Maybe you could get us a woman president," I tell her, "instead of meddling with the high school dating scene." She gives me that disappointed look, the one that means I'll never understand. "I'm working on it," she says. "It's complicated." She never takes me along, claims it's not good for my developing brain. "Mom," I say, "if my mind can wrap around Euclid and Einstein, it can probably handle hanging out with your 1980s big-haired friends watching MTV. Sometimes she says things like, "Maybe I should take you back so you'll appreciate your cell phone and the internet and cars that run on French fry oil." "Whatever," I tell her. "Bring me back a pterodactyl egg and I'll stop asking." But I know it's not like that. She can't bring anything with her. If she could, my dad would be here now, helping me with my physics homework, taking me out on clear nights to watch the stars. She won't admit she visits him, but I know. Instead, I watch her disappear over and over. Hope she'll survive her wormhole again. Hope all her atoms are still her. "Mom," I ask, "what are you fixing?" She says, "Time's not like that, honey. Not like a needle and thread. Not something that mends." All right, so I don't know if Kathy Patras is out there in the audience or not, because I couldn't see everybody before I started, but she's my mother's best friend. And when I was a little girl, so I love horses. I was totally a horse girl, rode horses growing up. And one of my memories of Kathy was visiting her in Texas and getting to meet her horse. And so she texted me after she got the book and told me she went right to this poem and read it first. So I'm reading this for her. I hope she's out there. And if not, hopefully she'll get to hear it in any case. So this is Horse Whisperer's Daughter. When you enter a space with an animal, remember you're an animal too. Look with animal eyes, move with animal bones. When something runs circles around you, something wild and untrusting, hold out your hand. Let the circle soften apart. I've seen my father bring a Mustang to his open palm with nothing but his quiet voice in the dust, his fearless stride, his patient nearing. You can watch trust crest when a horse dips its head, licks and chews, offers its forehead, follows you as one of its own. My brothers, troubled, sometimes tried to stray. One call or another, whatever beasts waited at the end of our gravel road. My father always brought them round, kindness like an instinct, a tender lead rope tethered to his heart. Now, none of us will let my father go. Outside my father's window, the mustangs skim their tails across their backs, snort softly, twitch their hides in the sun. My father coughs, his hands tremble in his sleep. He is strong, I tell myself. He can run and run. The mustangs bump and nuzzle in the heat. My father talks to horses like horses, talks to my brothers and I like we are part horse. My brothers muck the stalls, offer apples, dig stones out of restless hooves. They have learned when to drop their eyes, when to approach, when to touch, and when to turn their backs. My brothers and I, we'll learn to go on gently, keep our herd together, do my father's work. His heart is wild against his ribs now, ready to bolt. Papa, I whisper, Papa. I press my face into his chest. Easy now, that's right, easy. Settle down, just rest. All right, two more daughters. So Halloween is my favorite holiday. Fall is my favorite season. So as we tilt towards that with the rain coming to Portland this weekend, I'm going to read you one of the spookier daughters. So this is Vampire's daughter. If I could sleep, I would dream the bright blue of skies, a gaudy show of sun, light and colors spectruming brilliantly, a feast blooming into the heat. I know there is more that begs harvesting beyond these untold furrows of red. When I feed, I imagine poppies, roses and tulips, bougainvillea, hibiscus, amaranthus, ranunculus, erupt from each round wound in the skin. Peonies, hyacinth, clematis, flower vein to vein. A creeping vine, this floral unfolding, trailing from the split of my lips. In the darkness, a garden is but a graveyard, dim bounty of silhouettes growing linearly in the draining light. Every garish display is lost to the black. The bees rehived, songbirds folded into the trees. So I have taken to remaining a bat by night. The sky is electric with sound. I tune my ears to its pitch. Flight is a gift my father finds unbecoming, striding as he does through the human world, hovering neck to neck to neck. But I have found the nocturnal flowers with their pale bodies, their intoxicating scents. Primrose, catchfly, moonflower, sweet mango and agave, jessamine, cocoa, phlox. My tongue in the honeysuckle, delving so much deeper than my teeth. My father says I will forget how to shift back again, that nectar is no substitute for blood. But oh, the musk of the night blooming Sirius when she opens her many-petaled face. I can't help but lean in to kiss her, taste her burning light. All right, and I'm gonna leave you with this one last daughter. There's monsters in here too, but sometimes they're the good guys. So this is Yeti's daughter. The snow is a congress of billions of tiny gods, crystalline and complex, perfect in their symmetry and design. They shapeshift to reflect our animal flaws. We move slowly, reverent in our tread. Each footprint must be erased, the trodden gods reassembled. We mean no harm, but we are large and heavy, and also sought. If we could, we would stay in one place, glacial in our habitation. My father can stand still and silent, pluck a bar-headed goose from the air with a spin of his wrist. But you never stop looking, climbing through the snow, the little gods crushed under your boots. Are your own hearts not enough for you? You can let nothing be. When we must run, leaving cruel footprints behind, we have the bears. They muddle their tracks with our own, catch their hairs on the rocks, evidence in blacks and browns and blues. We have the hearts of bears, hearts of snow leopards, foxes, and hares, pheasants and grouse, squirrels, yaks, marmots, and wolves. You'll never find us, prehistoric in our hiding, and you, set on your massive gods. Thanks, y'all.
Brittney, that was just gorgeous. Really wonderful poems. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, our next poet is David Pickering. Let me tell you about his brand new collection, Jesus Comes to Me as Judy Garland, which is such a great title. This collection explores themes of sexual orientation, spirituality, family, and aging, often using smart humor and sharp observation. These poems are much like the old Cadillacs that Pickering clearly loves, big and powerful and roomy, and they are full of interesting companions kibitzing in the back seat. Betty Davis, Bob Ross, Judy Garland, Lucille Clifton, Marlene Dietrich, Vincent van Gogh, and yes, Jesus. This collection is an affirmation of spirit and the variety of ways it manifests in the contemporary world. While these poems sometimes navigate dark and complex territories, Pickering is a confident driver, and the reader always feels safe riding shotgun in the front seat. So settle into the leather-trimmed aqua brocade and step on it. You're going for a ride. You're going for that ride with David Pickering. He's a native Oregonian, having grown up and lived much of his life in the working class culture of the North Oregon coast. His poetry has been published in a variety of journals, including Goldman Review, Portland Review, Gertrude Journal, Raw Art Review, and Haunted Waters Press. Sounds like a Halloween press. David recently retired from a 30-year career in human resources management. He and his husband, Stephen, live in Oregon. Everybody, please welcome David Pickering.
Good evening, everybody. I can't see who is here, but if you came, we're really grateful. So I've got a few thank yous to get out of the way. First, I want to thank Airlie Press for selecting my book as the winner of its 2020 Airlie Prize. I couldn't believe it. I was eating dinner when I got the email and I almost choked on my casserole. Anyway, and I want to especially thank the 3 editors who worked on the book with me, Jennifer Brine, Brittney Corrigan, and Jessica Mehta. I'd like to thank them for their editorial assistance and for caring enough to make sure the book came into the world in the best possible way. It's a beautiful book, and I sincerely thank you. Finally, I want to thank Annie Bloom's Books for hosting this event. Buy books from independent booksellers. Buy them. Once the corporations die, independent booksellers will still be there taking care of us. They know how to survive. So give them your business. I have 6 poems for you to read to you this evening, and my husband and I lived for 5 years in the Dalles. We only relocated back to the metro area a few months ago. My first poem for you this evening is titled, "The Dalles is as close to Portland as Eastern Oregon dares come." Even Hood River is too close. The 20 miles between morphing greener and more progressive Democrat every mile west. I like the weather in TB, the way the rain peters at Rowena. I like how the woman who cuts my hair has an unironic beehive and plainly doesn't give a shit. She circles me in white New Balance, clipper precise, bitching about the hipsters down the freeway and how they wrecked a perfectly nice town, suspicious of folks without local lineage. And though she could likely kick my ass in a bar fight, she eyes me like I'm a scary clown and passes the collective trauma. Those damn Rajneeshis took over at Antelope, tried to kill us up here, poisoned the salad bar. Go look it up. you'll see. I read opinions in the local paper. The editor loves God, the Second Amendment, and not me. Not my rainbow bumper sticker, not my public displays. And after 3 years, I'm still as iffy as those red shirts when they first arrived with their Bhagwan smiles, flush and buying vocal. Nothing much thrives in the Oregon desert without help or luck, so far removed from Portlandia small plates and all that yoga. So easy to be swallowed in the expanse. The sky so Catholic I had to relearn how to breathe, to pray. I'll never cede myself to local norm, but I'll always take in the rimrock evening, absorb the benediction of dry air and red lenticular clouds, always turn to the deep end of the sky. I've learned to see in the dark now. I can see for eons in this rolling sage cosmos. I'm not sorry I can. Okay. Now the book has a few series of poems running through it interspersed. One of them is their family poems, and they're titled The Pickerings Do This, The Pickerings Do That, Pickerings Take a Ride. This is titled The Pickerings Try Methodist. We use a whole pew, good-looking rednecks who know how to dress. Our old Cadillac dripping oil and rust in the rain out front. Even Dad is there, sweating last night's drunk into his suit. Mom is pretty in her frosted makeup and auburn 60s flip, just a little plump, but still a head turner. We stare straight down the nave at an altar set for business, a tray of wafers, shot glasses of grape juice, a brown bowl of water sweating in the warm chapel. We trudge disinclined down the aisle. Mom's eye is a thumb in our back, the room a red and purple bruise, the pastor immaculate. We answer the questions, get the sprinkle. Mom beams, she believes in nothing more than fresh starts. We're gonna say grace at the dinner table now, she decrees in the steamy caddy. Her pink lips and green eyeshadow, her red highlights glowing in a blue cloud of smoke. Anything is possible. She could get the house clean, have the pastor over, find a prayer that works, one that makes her husband sober, her children mind. Now, I grew up in Rockaway Beach, Oregon, probably my first resentment of many. But, and I was a really weird kid. I grew up a little south of town in an area of vacation homes in Twin Rocks. And there were all of these retired old ladies in the neighborhood. And I had this whole circuit of old ladies I'd go visit with. And so this is titled, At age 10, I am the joy of old ladies. Their husbands are dead. They've continued their little shingle retirements playing pinochle and canasta and driving their old Buicks, rusty, bulbous, and passé as our tired resort town with its bumper cars and motor courts and no reason to pull off the highway. I catch on fast, a clever partner when they need a fourth, and always happy to empty ashtrays, to refill plates of jam-stuffed cookies served on sets of 40s Heisey. My presence is unquestioned, though my preteen boy-girl body, my lazy belly and unmanly breasts strains my clothes, strains Dad's tolerance, grandma's indulgence, other boys' ready inclusion. These ladies deal me in, let me have real coffee and the scoop. I know about the mayor's first wife and why Tommy doesn't look like his sister. I know Mr. Sims used to sell homemade booze. I know about Bobby, whose mom owns the Curly and Cute, how he got arrested in Portland for something I couldn't quite hear and was sent to Salem for shock treatments. The ladies tut and coo, pass me more cookies and admire my meld, tell me I'm smart, say I'm a wonderful boy. I grew up in a Masonic family, and whatever, I grew up in we didn't have much money, but my folks, because they belonged to Masons and Eastern Star, had a half a closet full of formal wear. I mean, really, tuxedos, formals, all of that stuff. And I was expected to become a Mason in training, so I joined the DeMolay Boys. And so this is titled DeMolay Boy. I come from Masons, a long line of masters. I learned the DeMolay secret handshake, how to turn square corners around the stations, how to say the prayers on one knee, trying not to laugh when Jim made fart sounds. I was not a straight boy for long. Everyone knew before I did. And once I was excluded from the comfortable camaraderie of boys, I learned to love what I could. I loved the way trees grew like fur all the way to the dunes, how land and ocean flowed into each other. I loved the way the loggers smelled of pitch and sweat when they came out of the woods, stubbled beards and unzipped hickory shirts, nests of sawdust caught in their chest hair. I loved their tired eyes as I filled the tanks and washed the windshields of their pickups. I loved the way they knew my past, asked what my dad and his brothers were up to, how my grandma was doing. I loved the way they looked in their suits at the Masons Lodge on our DeMolay nights, bad ties and butch waxed hair, their deep voices telling us how to use the mahogany box of small white balls, one black in their midst. It's easy, one ball, one vote. Put a white one through the hole if you want him, and put the black one through if you don't. Rough, scrubbed hands passing it along the line of boys, each of us given the heady power to exclude. And I remember savoring the possibility of revenge, reliving the sneered stings of faggot, the worst word one boy can call another, as I fingered that hot black ball. I held it a long moment before putting it back, knowing even then what it was I loved about me, about them. Okay. I did a lot of musical theater work. I did a lot of singing in choirs, and my first love was choral singing. And I still believe that the voice is a holy instrument. And this is titled Vox. The instrument is testy and hardwired to emotion. Nerves make it sharp, inattention flattens it. Ask any tenor, he'll tell you how age limits the range, how his line is toughest. He'll also go on con spirito about the flat altos, easy sopranos who always get the melody, and those lazy bastard basses who only have to show up in a tux and sing low to get laid by half the chorus. He'll tell you his is first to go, a dark harbinger for the others who hear his tiny slips on the wire, watches fall from first to second, still able to hit a solid B flat once or twice, but no longer able to live up there. The ecstatic loops above the staff, in Caldanzo pushes, pulling the choral body to its apex, a split geode of raptured valves, Roman candles of sacred sound. Well, that's enough of that. All of us who sing know tenors in general are touchy as drunken drag queens and prone to the isimo. But we also remember our first time, uncool in the safety of the music room, the collective intake, the bowing of air across chords, our callow revelation at the opulent overtones in a chord perfectly tuned. Our mouths, our throats open, our bodies vibrating in betrothal. So, fraying and kitschy, we still can't help but offer it up. And when we do, we are the first note sung in Notre Dame, Gothic vaults cupping and ringing us full of heaven, our amoroso faces, rose windows full of jeweled light. The other cycle of poems that kind of, or the other bunch of poems that cycle through the collection are visitations by Jesus. And, Jesus comes to me as Bob Ross, Jesus comes to me as Mrs. Rose Castorini, that kind of thing. I wrote this kind of as a result of realizing that my sexual orientation was actually a gift from my creator. And this is sort of what came of that idea. This is titled, Jesus Comes to Me as Judy Garland. Heavy-lidded Milltown eyes full of knowing how it is. He wears the little black dress she wore on Jack Parr in '62. Her last good years before the voice went and she got so weird and died in London, seated on the loo. He has a pink follow spot, says he loves what it does for his complexion when he belts them out at Carnegie Hall, gets the people on their feet, clapping, standing on the seats, shimmying in the aisles, says everyone wants a piece of rapture to tuck and savor later, to help them through the days of shrink-wrapped tweets and Pandora playlists. Jesus said he knew he had to intervene when he heard me in the 7th grade hallway singing, "Don't Rain on My Parade," knew I was more of a Judy than a Barbara, and gave me A Star Is Born to replace my funny girl infatuation. He says Judy knew how better to project the note, send it through whirring atoms of air, through sinew and bone to stroke the heart, and move into space where it begat glowing galaxies, gaseous clouds of color spinning, red to blue to gold, like the light on Grammy's silver Christmas tree glinting in her living room as the Judy Garland show boomed on the TV. Just listen to her, says Jesus. I knew you'd love Judy, that she'd be your truth and your way. I heard it when you were born, your first cry, that note went spinning, created a world light years away. He points to a star, then another and another. Look, see what you can do? You help create the heavens. He takes my hand and I can see the pulsar I made singing The Man That Got Away in the basement, age 15, fat and queenie and flawless. The quasar made to get happy, singing in Grandpa's old fedora, we're going to the promised land. Notes flung like solar winds, a celestial borealis flaring on my shoulders, a feather boa of serpentine light, my fingers snapping planets and shooting bright fire. And that's all I have for you this evening. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, David. That was really great. Wonderful poems. All right, everybody. You must have questions for these poets. Feel free to type them into the chat and I can read them to them, or if you want to pop on the screen and ask them a question, go ahead. Maybe raise your little blue hand there, or whatever color it comes up as. We've got like 3 pages of people here, so it might be hard to see you. Everyone's being very shy. 50 people in here. Someone has a question. Oh, here we go. Margaret Chula, thank you. Wonderful readings, you two. Brittney, how did you choose which daughters to write about?
So they kind of chose me. So what I did was, so when the project started, I thought, like, I didn't know it was going to be a project. I wrote one, and then I kind of accidentally wrote another. And then I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm doing a book now. And so I made a list. I just made a list of like every things from like folklore and mythology and popular culture and just careers, like whatever I thought would be interesting to write about. So I kept a big long list of them. And every time I would finish one, I would just go over the list and see who popped out at me and wanted to say something. So, and usually I tried to choose ones that I, I don't know that any of the daughters are completely straightforward. I tried to choose ones that they're usually about something else underneath. They sort of have 2 ways that you can read them. So there's always something else going on. And so depending what I was thinking about sort of subject matter wise, I'd be like, oh, I know what, like for instance, Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz is in there, and that one's about having a parent with Alzheimer's. And so they would sort of talk to me and tell me what they wanted to be about, and I was off.
Did you do a lot of research?
A little bit. I often do a lot of research on my writing, both poetry and fiction, but so I did on some of these, for sure, the ones that were like characters from mythology, but all of the daughters are invented, right? Some of them are based, there's a handful of real people in there, like Amelia Earhart's in there, but they're all invented daughters. But I did do research like more around the ones that were career oriented. So like there's a mortician's daughter, and even with the Hatter from Alice in Wonderland, I did a lot of research on like the tools of the trade and tried to work, some of that language or those items into the poems. So yeah, some research involved for sure.
All right, we have a question for David from my wife, Liz Prado. David, can you talk about how music informed your poetry and vice versa?
Sure. I'm dyslexic. I didn't realize that I had dyslexia until I was in my mid-50s. And so I'd always been an auditory learner. And music, I started doing music when I was in the 5th grade, actually. And, it was a language that I understood when a lot of other information that was coming my way, my brain didn't process like everybody else's. So over the course of doing all of that, and I didn't start writing poetry until the 90s. I did a lot of music, and the vowel sounds and rhythm and musicality. The music I did kind of informed the poetry, and not in an overly conscious way. It's just that's how it developed. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
All right. Armin says, beautiful work, David. What advice do you give to poets who are trying to write through their memories and possibly trauma?
Oh, geez. Okay. First of all, it's poetry. It ain't journalism. It's poetry. So it's not necessarily factual, but it's the truth. One of the epigraphs at the beginning of my book is a quote from Lily Tomlin that says, "And lies are bad." This is Edith Ann talking. "And lies are bad, but the truth can be made up if you know how." And so I think our job as poets is not necessarily one of reporting, but one of telling the truth, even if it's not necessarily factual.
Nancy Flynn, this is another question for you, David. Bravo, David. I'm a forester and not many poems speak to me, but yours do, especially that the Pickerings do Methodist. Do you still sing the Gloria Party in the shower?
No. Really, the voice is one of the first things to go. I'm 65 years old now, and I don't do any solo work anymore.
That was actually Nancy's father. We're getting clarification on that point. Let's see. A different Nancy Slavin. David, first, congratulations again. You've worked on these poems for a while. Can you say something about how you curated the final pieces for your book, maybe with help of the press?
Actually, putting the book together, my friends, Nancy Flynn and Alida Roll, kind of gave me a kick in the ass on this and helped me put the poems together in a way that made intuitive sense. I first put them together in kind of a linear way, which didn't really work, but there may be like a line or a couple of words in one poem that sort of speaks to a line or a couple of words in the next poem. And that's how they all got strung together. I learned a lot from Nancy and Alida about that.
That's really cool. Liz says, Brittney, tell us about your new story collection.
Yeah, so that's been fun. Like I've done poetry for since I was little, like forever and ever. I've always considered myself like solely a poet, but a few years back, I decided I wanted to try my hand at fiction again. I hadn't written fiction since I was a little kid. I had written like a bunch of stories about, again, horses, right? When I was like in elementary school, always horses. And I hadn't really written fiction since then. And so, but I thought, well, I don't have any ideas for stories. I don't have anything to say in that realm. But then I got interested in, writing about issues of climate change and extinction and the Anthropocene age. And I was doing poetry work in that too, but I discovered that I had some stories that were bigger than poems. And so I decided I would try my hand at fiction again, and started taking some workshops to sort of reacquaint myself with sort of the craft end of things, and found a writing group, as Michael knows, to help me develop my craft. And so the stories are all having to deal with sort of those issues, climate change and extinction in the Anthropocene age, as well as, the characters having their own stories threaded through them, but they all have sort of tastes of that, including the story that's been in the news like all week this week about the woolly mammoth DNA. I was on that train about a couple years ago. So that's been interesting to see that story this week, but I have a story about that too. So it's been very fun to sort of write in two different genres at the same time, and the same subject matter has been really, really fun.
I was thinking when you were talking about writing lists for the daughters' poems that you must be a list maker, just because you have so many themes, and your other poetry collection is like that too. These, sort of those like disasters that occur. Have you always just been a big list maker?
I am a list maker. I'm a to-do list maker and a list maker when it comes to writing things too. So yeah, for the Anthropocene stuff, I have just a Google Doc going where I just drop links to articles, and it's kind of like the daughters, where I had like a list of daughters. I do this with like whenever I was wanting to work on a new story or a poem, I just sort of browse through the articles and was like, and then I tend to like throw things together in both the poems and the stories. Like for instance, I'll be like, woolly mammoth, palindrome, let's go. That's kind of like my MO with getting started on these things. I sort of get interested in some weird topic that I've heard about, weird or interesting thing. And lately a lot of, science makes its way into that. And then, yeah, but I use my lists all the time. So that's true.
Other questions from folks? From either or both, or about the press? Anyone?
Don't be shy, people.
Nancy Flynn. David, have you sent, or husband or father? David, have you sent copies of your book to Liza and Sherry yet?
I lost their addresses. I don't know.
Amelia says, great job, both of you, delightful. Agreed. Well, if there are no further questions, we could call it a night. I'm going to throw in the link one more time where you can buy both of these books from Annie Bloom's, from the event site there. We would really appreciate it. And this event is being recorded. I'm going to get it up on our YouTube channel soon. There'll be a link at that same link to the YouTube channel at that same link that I just put in there from our website. So you can share it with friends and family who weren't able to make it tonight and watch it again yourselves. Thank you. And thanks to everyone for coming tonight. It was really great turnout and so wonderful to hear both of these poets. All right. Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Thank you all.
Good night. Thanks for coming, everybody.